Makers la mette in mezzo, bella tiro, gol! Luka Modric, ha segnato Luka, ecco il gol del maestro, ha segnato Luka Modric.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host Oli Fisher, joined once again by Anthony Tolgrud.
What's up, guys? Glad to be back. 7:40 in the morning, the chat never disappoints. As the intro was going, Stefano just hit Lorenzo with very perfectly timed roast, and now I'm cracking up. So yeah,
that was fantastic. Yeah, and he's just gone in again. That always gives me a chuckle. Speaking of intro, we got it sorted.
Yes, yeah.
We
changed that. So yeah, we got the Modric goal. I think it's very fitting. Yeah, Marco. I'm gonna butcher it.
Go on, do it.
Villela.
Yeah, maybe.
Sorry, Marco. You've told us before.
Yeah,
and now we're self-conscious of it. We can't get it right. But
I used him VA like it was double L, like in Spanish.
Yeah, that's what my brain wanted to do, but I failed. Which means I was successful, failed upwards, kind of like Emerson. But yeah, so shout out him. He DM'd me on last night, was it, or 2 days ago, after the game, and said, "Hey, change the intro to Modric goal." And I said, "Okay." So I forwarded to Isaac, said, "Do this," and then he just gave me the audio, and then I said, "Can you make the video?" And he made the video wrong, so then I made the video in about 6 seconds. So should have just done it myself to begin with, but I made more work for everyone. Here we are.
Yay! Look, we were waiting for a goal, right? We were waiting for a goal where we think, "Oh, that's a good one to put." At least for a few months, that'll be a good one to have, and we got it. We're going to obviously talk about the Bologna game where Modric was the hero a few days after turning 40 years of age. But before we dive into the episode, thank you to our Substack founding members: Des Windsor McGlynn, Tito Mac, Moritz Pullman, Jerry Gawler, Kevin, MJ, Mats, Luke Villano, Rael Escobar, Rajat, Carlo Fassi, Nasser, Merlin Finker. Get in there, Merlin's back. Derek Favretto, Hevanly 13, Mike Schulz, JT Physio, Tarek, Marco Villela, shout out again, Roberto Racinos, Ken Medicaid, Gianluca, Abdulaziz Ibrahim, Andreas Klang, and Ari197. The list is growing. The club is thriving. I mean, our members club, not necessarily Milan as a club, although, we
are in 5th place, 3 points better than last year.
Yeah, absolutely. Over on the Substack, you can find content such as the most recent pub chat, which was Stefano, like Gwen Stefani, doing post-Mercato predictions with Lorenzo, of course, with the window shut. They've kind of done an updated version of what we did on a main pod a few weeks ago when the window was still open. We sort of debate every year whether we should do it when the window's shut, because we talk a lot about hypothetical movement, like will Milan get a striker and all this, and how that would impact our predictions. Now the window's shut, they've gone and done some revised predictions. The bonus pod that myself and yourself did at the end of last week was a breakdown of the wage bill, looking at our top earners 2025-26 and how the trend has gone over the tenure of Redbird Capital. Isaac's most recent bonus article looks at the change in contract structure that Milan have been using, how we've gone from doing a 5-year deal to different kinds of structures, using a lot of options on the club side, how it protects us, and some of the precedents that we've clearly learnt from. And then you've got the newsletter as well, which touches upon the rumours that Jerry Cardinale is looking to sell the club to the Steinbrenner family, who own Yankees Global Enterprises, something like that. So yeah, go check that out. All that over on Substack. You can try 7 days for free. And again, thank you to our founding members. Bologna at home. Did we both predicted wins, didn't we?
I don't remember.
I'm sure I predicted a 2-1 win with Leao to score the winner off the bench. So
yeah, that sounds about right.
Imagine
I probably
my
said
disappointment.
some Santiago thing, which wrong.
Yeah. We got the job done ultimately, which is what matters. But there is a lot to unpack from this particular game. A lot of different individuals to talk about, not just players. Officials are going to get a bit of a pasting in this one. But yeah, we won 1-0. Luka Modric gets the only goal right on the hour mark. It was a lovely counter that it came from. Ball worked wide by Loftus-Cheek to Salamakers, who perfectly times the cutback. Modric with a perfectly timed run and a nice sweeping first-time finish into the back of the net. And that was enough for the 3 points. But we'll start with the 11 that was named. Excuse me. I had worries about this particular starting 11 because I thought it was going to be way too narrow as a system. Now, we knew the problems that we had in attack going into this game because there was Pulisic, who came back with a hand injury stroke fatigue from USA duty. Nkunku, who had like 30 minutes in his legs at most, we were told. And then you had Rafael Leao, who there were doubts about whether he'd make it back. And then Allegri confirmed in pre-match press conference he's actually going to miss the next 2 games at least and is now targeting Napoli. So that feels like a bit of a setback. So really, you've only got Santi Jimenez as the only starting candidate for the attacking role. So that meant he had to kind of reinvent the system a little bit. But he didn't go too rogue and change to a 4-man defense or anything like that. He just played a 3-5-1-1. What were your thoughts when you saw that lineup?
Not many positive things. Not because of what he had to do. I actually think the formation itself made sense, right? It was, 3-5-1-1, almost like a 3-6-1 in a weird way because he didn't get that far. Like he wasn't playing a second striker. Wasn't really playing attacking mid. It was more of like a box to box, but like only one box. I don't know. I guess that is attacking mid. It was an interesting role, and maybe it's just the quirks of Loftus-Cheek that made me feel like he wasn't doing attacking mid duties as much. But yeah, it was an interesting lineup. We had heard De Winter was going to be starting, so I was excited for that. There were talks of, was it Ricci also starting alongside Modric and Rabiot?
Yeah. It sounded like Ricci and De Winter were the 2 that were going to come in.
Yeah, and then for up until like the day before, they were still saying it might be Jimenez Pulisic up top. So it was like kind of a weird waiting game of like, what's it going to be? What's it going to be? And we had all these cool ideas and all these debuts we were anticipating after, let's be real, a few games of not wanting to see Loftus-Cheek, Fofana, Pavlovic on the field at the same time. And then this came out and it was almost like the worst of all worlds. So everyone was really frustrated and upset. But in hindsight and with a calmer mind, it really does make a lot of sense to do this. Now, I still would have preferred De Winter from the start, and obviously he came on at halftime. Pavlovic came off hurt, so we'll get to that. But Rabiot getting the start was the big I guess story in this lineup more than anything, I think. And I had told you on either the bonus or on last week's main pod, I don't remember which one, but that I thought Rabiot would start. And you kind of went back and forth on if you agree, but you also said realistically he shouldn't, which also I agree. But knowing Allegri, I was not shocked to see that not only did he start after one day from his presentation, but played the full 90. So and look, if it wasn't for Modric scoring a goal, I would have said he was man of the match. I was very happily impressed by Rabiot's performance.
I thought he was outstanding. Yeah, I honestly thought, when we were talking about the starting lineups, I'm just trying to get a lineup up here. When we were talking about it, I thought it was more like a case of necessity that Rabiot would maybe be like 45 minutes fit or whatever. He did play a bit with France in that second game over the international break. And I think that was important just to get him a little bit of rhythm back. But as you say, if anyone was doubting his importance, or if anybody had him as like on the bench provisionally when everyone's fit, Allegri was like, nah, he is going to be very important for us. And actually, in this particular system, he performed quite an important tactical role. If you look at his heat map, he was hugging the left side, really. And that actually allowed Estupiñán to get quite far forward, particularly in the first half. But I just thought his performance was everything that you kind of hope for, really, in a debut. He got himself about. He showed good signs at both ends. He didn't appear at all rusty. And then, of course, he had that moment in the second half where he goes on that run through several players, and I thought it was going to be like the goal he scored against us for Juve in the lockdown 4-2 game when we came from behind. But he darts in off the right in that case and then just shoots top corner. I was hoping it'd be a similar thing to that, but kind of got brought down. So
it was really just a case of like Rabiot and Modric as well, of course, but just they looked so much more seasoned. They looked like vets compared to everyone else. And no one in this starting lineup is, a new professional, right? Like none of them are in their very early 20s. Like they're all around the middle point of their careers, maybe 6-7 years left until they hit that downward slope. But Rabiot's 30 now, and he just looks so much more mature on the ball in everything. His professionalism, which is something that has always been questioned, especially with his arrival in Row, which we actually didn't see any coming together between the two of them.
Yeah, there were no direct.
So, yeah. So it's just everything, all the questions we had, and look, we saw him under Allegri at Juventus for years, and he was kind of that shithead player that you're just like, I don't really like this guy, but dude, I mean, he was commanding the field. He had no problem pointing wherever we need to go. Even to Modric, he was telling Modric what to do at some points, and Modric was listening because he was right. And it was a breath of fresh air. I mean, you could tell he is just leagues above Fofana, Loftus-Cheek, even Estupiñán.
Yeah.
And it really made a difference. Like you said, he just hugged that left side. He basically played as a second Estupiñán or a Leao in this situation. Not saying he was doing the Leao moves, but just positionally drawing people. He was always double covered. He always created space. He looked for opening. I mean, it was just an A+ performance by him. I was very happy. I changed my Twitter name to Rabiot fan after the game. Just wildly impressed. So
yeah. I do think it's funny. People were questioning whether he'd be an upgrade on Musa. For an Allegri team as well. 85%.
That's the other thing. Musa's gone. Oh, Musa's gone, huh? He left. I forgot he left the club.
Yeah, he left. Yeah, he left for Atalanta.
I was like, we didn't even see Musa.
No. 85% pass accuracy, 52 touches, 11 duels won. I mean, that is impressive, to be fair. 4 dribbles completed, and played the full 99 minutes when you count stoppage time and such. But good performance there. I honestly think that it's one of those where the result means everything, doesn't it? So you're able to put a positive spin on things, and I'll put the stats up now as well. If you look at this stat line, barring the possession, and I think that this is an interesting thing which we should touch on, but barring the possession, we dominate in every category. Much higher on expected goals, albeit not quite at 1. 2 big chances to 0, 14 total shots to 5, 3 shots on target to 0. So that's a big thing, Bologna. We already had the least shots conceded of any team in the first 2 rounds of Serie A coming into this game. And then we restricted Bologna to only 5 and 0 on target. 7 corners to 4, but we only really threatened from the 1 corner. So the set pieces were a little bit disappointing in that sense. But I think we were good value for this win. There were chances in the first half. Jimenez drew a decent save from Skorupski, where I actually thought he did quite well to check back inside in the box onto his left foot, and he just wasn't near enough the corner, so it was fairly comfortable stop. But you like that. You like to see the striker getting involved in that sense. Estupiñán hits the post with that was a brilliant move, just a brilliant move, and we picked out all through preseason and in the early games this attacking with the 2-3-5 thing. I think we saw it a little bit different in this game, but the same principles being there of when we're working the ball from the middle third into the final third, Estupiñán just goes, he flies, and he's the spare man on the far side every single time. And it seems like no one's really switched onto it yet, or they're backing themselves to slide over and adjust. And as we saw in this particular circumstance, Bologna slide over, Zortea moves over to try and combat him, and Estupiñán takes advantage of that and takes it inside onto his right foot, curls a nice shot, just clips the outside of the post. But that would have been a brilliant, well-worked goal through Bologna's press if we got that one. And then there was a Loftus-Cheek flicked header from a corner. That was the one corner we threatened from. And Jimenez kind of gets there at the far post and somehow hooks it onto the post, but I think it had gone out anyway. Play carried on. But yeah, that was only just wide of the far stick. So at halftime, even though it was 0-0, and people were kind of complaining about how much we'd let Bologna have the ball, I was relatively calm. I think any halfway you don't concede, you're giving yourself a platform. We knew that we had more on the bench in this particular game as well to come on. We could throw Richie into the midfield to inject a little bit of energy and a bit more technical quality than Fofana. We knew we could bring on Nkunku and Pulisic. So we could gear up, shall we say. And then, as you alluded to earlier, the defensive change, Pavlovic off for De Winter. I was a little bit worried about this one because you're thinking you're changing a back three that has not conceded a goal and not conceded very much at all in terms of opposition chances, but it turns out it was forced because of a flexor problem. And we should also mention Maignan at this point too, going down early in the second half, completely off the ball. He's done this before, but yeah, he goes down off the ball. I think it was a bit after he'd launched a long kick.
It was,
yeah. And then he sits down and he straight away, before the physio had even got there, gave the, so he knew he was done.
He felt it.
Yeah, he felt it go, which, is fair enough. We've had it before where he's tried to play through things, I think, and it's been the wrong decision. So, that happened. Pietro Terracciano comes on. We've spoken before about how we think Terracciano is going to be a more functional backup than Sportiello, and have to say he didn't have an awful lot to do, but looked okay, looked composed, in command of his area, the things you'd like to see. But yeah, the sort of two changes there you wouldn't normally make, and they were forced. So I was a little bit worried about that. But what I will say about De Winter before we move on to the winning moments and stuff is I didn't notice him, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. I was thinking that during the game, and then he immediately got the ball right after. My brain said, I haven't seen him at all. This is a good thing. And he didn't have much to do with it. He received the ball, and then he passed it back to Terracciano, and then it was out for a long ball. So good. I'm happy with De Winter. I've said early on, I think even my predictions, I said he was going to be the breakout player. I'm big on the kid, and I think it was really nice that he came on for Pavlovic. I know everyone's like, he's got to play on the right side. He has to play on the right side. It would be for Tomori. And I thought he was going to come on for Tomori because he was carded. Obviously, that was before we knew about the injury. But he looked just fine on the left. And look, this Bologna is not last year's Bologna, and it's certainly not this year's Napoli or Juventus. So, yet to come for a big challenge, and we'll get there in about 2 weeks. But I think this was a nice ramp up in terms of the level of competition. Obviously, we failed the easiest game on paper against Cremonese in League One, but we are ramping up in a very winnable fixture list. At least in the early portion of the season, we've already had the Derby d'Italia, so Inter's dropped points in 2 games now, but we've had these easy little ramp ups to get progressively harder, but not crazy jumps yet. And we haven't even seen what a full force 11 looks like for us yet. So I'm really happy. I'm cautiously optimistic with the rest of the season. I know there's 35 weeks to go, so maybe I should shut up, but it's all looking good, outside of that one Cremonese game. And look, those stats are just pure Allegri. That's what you expect, right? No possession, very low XG. And yet you get a clean sheet, you get the win. And I do think 1-0 is actually disingenuous for the way the game went. Now, a lot of that's Santiago Jimenez's fault. We got to point it out.
Yeah, go for it.
Had a hat trick, right? Like there were at the very least a brace. There were one time where he was just in on goal, and instead of taking the shot first time, like he has in his entire tenure with us, and he usually scores that far post like he did, he decided to try to round the keeper, and then he shot it right at the keeper, who was already down too. Like he could have taken one more step and been in, but I think his confidence is just so low. And then there was a few more whiffed ones, just really bad, and I think he's in his head right now. This has not been a good start to the season for him, as everyone is well aware of. Losing a lot of faith, but typically when a new striker comes in, you think, okay, now I have to perform. I got to do this. And I think he thought they're going to replace me. And it showed, because as soon as Nkunku came on was a penalty incident. I don't know if we want to get to that yet or not. But
well, I'll talk about Santi first, and then we can do the penalty thing. But yeah, he had two clear chances, I will say, in the second half to really put us out in the clear. Because Modric, actually, we should talk about the goal if we're going chronologically.
Okay.
Gorgeous goal. I can't touch on it briefly earlier. It was a nice move. Good to see Salamakers and Modric link up in that way. And as I said, nice finish and all that. But I really liked the reaction Above all, you would not have been I get it. Fans of other clubs can take the piss and stuff and say, it's 1-0 against Bologna. Why are they going so mad? But you saw Modric, who has scored some of the biggest goals he's been part of some of the biggest wins in Real Madrid history and things like that. You ever question his hunger being there and that burning desire to keep winning and to bring that to Milan, and also the clear attachment that he feels having been a boyhood fan of the team and things like that. When he scores that goal and he goes running off to the corner and he is literally screaming with joy, like over and over again, he's going, yes! And he goes and he hugs Salamanca's, and then Salamanca's kind of bursts through the group of players and starts jumping and fist pumping in front of the fans. And then both Salamanca's and Modric turn around and I think it was a sort of an outpouring of because the first league game at San Siro didn't go very well. So I think they felt the need to put this right. And it had been sort of I would say it had been a bad 60 minutes because I still think we had the opportunities to perhaps have been ahead in the game. But it's just when you get into that territory in the game where it's like, is this going to happen for us today? And they took that moment, and I think that it was massive, and you could see what it meant to the team. So that was positive.
With the goal, it was after a string of not positive, and so I'm sitting there basically giving negative commentary because it started with Loftus-Cheek on a breakaway, and I literally said, I don't remember so literally is not the correct word. I said something along the lines of, this idiot doesn't pass, he's just going to run into the box, because it was Loftus-Cheek. And then I was like, go wide, go wide, go wide. Like, maybe a few more explicitives. Then he passes wide to Salamanca's. And I said, don't shoot, don't go outside, cut inside, just square the ball, You can't see Modric. There's no one on the screen. And then he squared it, and Modric comes in and scores it. And then, obviously I was very happy. And I looked at my fiance now, and I said,
oh, yeah.
I told them what to do word for word, and she's like, okay, whatever. Like, not even paying attention.
She's like, I wasn't watching yet.
I'm on my phone, leave me alone. But so I felt really good. Get my coaching license. I do have a 4v4 grassroots, so you need a 7v7 or a U7 coach. I'm your guy.
Great. Get inquiries into our email. It's in the description. I think we have had, and we do have, a few midfielders who would not take that particular shot first time either. I think they try and roof it, and he knows what to do there, and that is he almost aims for the crowd with it. And I think it does take a little nick before it goes past Skorupski. I don't think it goes straight into the net, but it doesn't matter. It was going in regardless. It was a lovely first time Cullen finish. And I was just really happy with that moment for him, because there's been a lot said about Luka Modric, and there's been some criticism, but mostly it's been overwhelmingly positive about the idea of us having him and what he can bring. And then the romance and the poetry of it all, a few days after turning 40, him scoring that goal at home to win us that game, I think, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, and then Santi fluffs his lines with a couple of chances to double the lead. And then I think the floodgates may have opened, kind of as they did in the last league game we played against them, where we scored 3 times in the final 20 minutes. I thought that could happen again, because when Bologna have to chase the game, they leave a lot of gaps. So the first one, I think, is it's a more difficult one. Tamori bends what looks like a really good ball around the back of the defence. The problem here is the pitch is almost too good, because it skips twice, and the second one is quite an aggressive bounce. So he has to take it at almost hip height. And I think if it just sort of rolls, and I'm not making like full excuses for him here. I still think that he should turn it into a better shot on goal. But I think that if it almost kind of rolls to him, he probably has got he's got the condition, shall we say, to hit it first time with his left foot. He doesn't. He has to bring it under control. The keeper's relatively quick off his line, narrows the angle, and snuffs out the danger. So that one wasn't criminal to me. But the second one, the 1v1 when Pulisic slips him through, and he does the hard bit right. He arcs his run perfectly, and that's what fills me with a bit of encouragement about Jimenez. Is that part of his game is still there. He's still he held his run really well there, and he gets through. And some strikers, I think Tammy Abraham falls into this category, and I think Olivier Giroud to an extent too, in terms of what we've had. They are worse when they've got time to think about what to do. You know, they almost just need to swing a leg at it when the ball's near them inside the box. Now, Jimenez should hit this first time and slot it under the keeper. He chooses to take touches and to round the goalkeeper. But even still, you know, it was a narrow angle. He narrowed the angle for himself, but he shifted it onto his favoured left foot. And there's a particular camera angle where you see he's on the edge of the 6-yard box. Like this, the angle's still there to get it in.
Yeah.
So even though he's made the wrong decision, he still should score from that situation. And yeah, it hits the outside of the post, and it's just like, it's really not falling for him today, you know. But he got subbed off with a few minutes to go for Nkunku, and I did notice a couple of things. Firstly, Allegri, as he was walking over to him, he turned around and encouraged the crowd to clap him off, because there was a few jeers, but a few fans also followed the instruction and stood and clapped him. And Allegri said to him as he was about to take a seat on the bench, well done, you worked for the team. So he actually, I guess, liked his performance, or it might be a bit of arm around the shoulder, covering him from criticism.
Which is where Allegri shines as a man manager. He's always been the guy who's going to protect the players, and he does it in a very loving way, instead of like how Zlatan would create a diversion and make it about himself. I'm a lion, a dragon, whatever, you know. Allegri has always been like even Jimenez, a guy he sent out the door for bad behavior. He's like, nah, everyone's late sometimes. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
You know, oh, Leao could be the best in the world. He's incredible. Arm around the shoulder. Even Teo for the 2 weeks he was here. You know, you see it all the time with Allegri. And that's why I think he's held in such high regard by players who work for him. I mean, like, what did we just say about Rabiot? He had a piss poor attitude. He was horribly disliked among the league, and now he comes in and it's like, this is the most mature guy, and you could tell he's fighting for Allegri more so than anything, because he didn't give those performances for Marseille. He wasn't fighting for De Zerbi, you know, and he wasn't doing it for Milan. Let's be real, he's probably a Juventus fan if there's any fandom in him. So he's fighting for Allegri, and that means a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's giving me tough dad vibes, is Allegri, you know, where he's like, He can be. He expects certain things. He sets high standards, and he does that because he's got the best interests of the team and the club at heart. However, when it comes to individuals, he does know the right time to play that good cop, bad cop thing, I guess, isn't it? Yeah. But he knows the right time to put the arm around the shoulder and say, you know what, I think you did well there. And also Modric did the same. Modric did the gesture into the fans to encourage him off, and I think that will probably mean the world. Look, he isn't a puppy. This isn't a charity thing. Like, he still has to put the ball in the back of the net in situations like that. And he's a striker. He'll be judged on his goals, and he'll be judged on taking chances. That's right. That's the way it should be. But I think in this specific delicate moment that he's going through, something like that will go a long way. And, you know, he's probably likely to start the next game too. And it's better for him to do that at 50% confidence than it is for him to do it at 0. So I think that was something notable. Let's come to the penalty incident, or non-penalty, as it turned out to be. Little lifted ball over the top. Nkunku, who had only been on the field for like less than 2 minutes. It wasn't long at all. He goes down, first of all, under a challenge from Lukumi. I watched the game with my dad. We were both like, what the hell? That's a Stonewall.
I was screaming.
And also, it looked like one of those egregious ones as well, where my first thought was penalty red card, because he hasn't really got near the ball there. Now, they're saying that they've removed the double jeopardy thing from it. So if you make an honest challenge for the ball, and it's even if it's last man, you shouldn't get a red card, you know. Whereas if you pull someone back by the shoulder, you're saying you've not gone for the ball, it is a red card. So in this case, it's just like, well, I'll take the penalty, and then we'll have a look to see if it was a red card. Doesn't happen. Here, Nkunku's on the deck. He somehow manages to get himself back up, keeps hold of possession. He's about to shift it onto his right for a shot. Freuler dives in, as well as I think Skorupski at the same time. It looks like his left leg gets caught. He goes down. This time, referee stood right on the penalty spot, points down and says, that's a spot kick. Then the replays start. It's like VAR check for potential penalty. He goes over and looks at it over and over again. The commentators on the TNT feed that I were watching were saying that the second one wasn't. And I think I can sort of see where that's coming from, because I think he does make a meal of, if there is any contact at all, he flops pretty hard, you know, under that Freuler challenge. It wasn't even that. It's like, oh, right, don't matter about that one. At least we've got the first one to look at, and they're going to see that, and you're going to see it's a penalty. Just never looked at it. Just decided not to look at it. Just said no penalty, and that's it. Let's just play on.
That's the part that blows my mind. I mean, so first, they only show one angle, and it's the side view angle, and it's the only one where you can't tell if there's contact because it's at an angle where you can't see where the feet intersect. So I don't know why that's the angle they choose to look at regardless. When you see it from the back, you can see he basically stamps on his feet and Nkunku pulls it up like everyone does when they get stepped on, right? And that's what brings him down. So it looks like he's making a meal out of it, but I do think he gets stepped on. That's what it was pretty clear from the back angle. And then, as you said, the lead into it, it was two penalties in quick succession, and were punished because Nkunku had the integrity to try to get back up. If he just stays down, throws his hands up, waits for the ball to go out of play, they review that, it's a penalty, right? So now we bring in the discussion of they're trying to remove diving from the sport. They want to get rid of divers. How do you get rid of diving if you don't incentivize the people who try to do the right thing by getting up and then get fouled again? You know, it was two penalties. The second one never would have happened if he just dove. If he stayed down, pretended he was hurt, feigned injury to get the review right then and there, would have the penalty. And then you're rewarding the behavior you're trying to get rid of and not the behavior that you want to see, which is the continued fight. And they are both penalties, but they only reviewed one angle of one challenge, not the whole incident, which is crazy because, look, the on-field referee who called it correctly is a lot more novice than the VAR ref, Fabry, who has been around a hot minute. If you remember last season, or maybe it was the season before, there was a Salernitana game with some questionable decisions. He was the on-field ref for that one. And I even said it before the game started when the lineup came out. I said Fabry's on VAR, and that's all I said.
Problematic.
Pointed it out. Yeah. No fucking surprise there, but it sets a horrible precedent. It really is bad, and it wasn't even the only incident in the game. I thought the Pulisic challenge was a penalty as well. When he cuts inside and you see an arm on his neck and his shoulder and pulls him down, like you just said with the double jeopardy, there was no opportunity to play the ball because he had already been nutmegged. So it was just the shoulder down. You can't do that. He's the last man. He's in on goal. He's in the box. How do we not even look at that? How do we say it?
Didn't even look at it.
Play? That's ridiculous. There was another moment where I think it was Rabiot, because he was on that left side. It could have been Estupinian. Crossed it, or was going to cross it in to Jimenez, who was one-on-one with a defender on the penalty spot. And he's double arm shoved in the back, pushed down on the spot before the cross goes off. No call, but that's the exact challenge that had Gabia's goal in the Cremonese game called off. So
and I remember as well. There? I remember when we played Bologna that time, and it was a 2-2 draw at San Siro, and we conceded that last-minute penalty. And it was because of a cross that was coming from the byline to a runner at the far post. So very similar circumstances. And Filippo Terracciano had come on as a sub, and he pulled him back like that. And it was like, it's incriminating because even though we don't know 100% that he would have scored from that position, or even that the ball couldn't have been cut out or whatever, you can't take a man out of the game when they're 10 yards away from the ball. Yeah. And that's what I didn't understand about the Jimenez one, is that everyone just seemed to kind of accept that it wasn't. And it's like, he's taking him out off the ball. What are we? Might have been soft. I don't know. If it happens the other way around, maybe we don't. Maybe we say he's gone down way too easily there.
I get the justification that, like, well, he's nowhere near the play. But at the same time, that's the exact reason that makes it a penalty. Why are you challenging a guy who's nowhere near the ball? You shouldn't be allowed. He does it because he's a yard
ahead of him as well. He does it because he knows a problematic situation.
He's in a dangerous position.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So that was. It was all ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. It was a farce. What's come out from it? Well, the FIGC, the Italian Football Federation president, has said it was a clear error, but then in the next sentence went on to say, but we need to look to the future and not dwell on the past. So again, just a complete lack of accountability. And what has actually come out?
Continue.
I was going to say Allegri taking his jacket off and getting a red card.
Yeah.
Now
there's one more incident before that I want to address because it's more bullshit with the refereeing, and you kind of mentioned it. We had a corner. Loftus-Cheek heads it. It looks like it hits the post, but it doesn't. It goes completely out of bounds for a goal kick. But because of the curve or the rotation or whatever, it bounces in, and they just let play continue. They counter all the way down to our box, and Salamakers has a challenge on him that then leads to a yellow card. And that's a yellow card that you can't annul because it's not a red card. But it came from out of bounds. This play never should have happened. And the linesman's right there. I mean, they have one job, and it's to watch that fucking line.
Yeah. Preventable.
Yeah.
Preventable.
And we got a lot of yellow cards. I think we had, was it 3 or 4? 3 in the first 20 minutes. I know that. It was the 19th minute when we got the second one.
Yeah, we had Tamari, Salamakers, Estupiñán. I don't have many complaints about the Estupiñán one from what I remember.
Yeah, that was straightforward. The Tamori one, funny. You know, he always makes his expression when he gets carded.
But yeah, I mean, what comes out of all of that where there's been an admission of error? So the referee, Massanaro, he will not referee a Serie A game in the next round, but they're calling it normal rotation anyway. So he would have gone to be part of the VAR team probably. So he might actually still do that. And for Fabri, the good news is he's been banned. Sorry, he's got a 2-game suspension from operating in the VAR room, but he can still referee in the meantime.
Yeah, it's
what a fucking brilliant what an institution, eh? And people wonder why we complain about Italian refereeing. I mean, that is just absolutely shocking. The one thing I will say is there's been a real media frenzy whipped up about it. And, you notice like Galliani in the stands for this one alongside Furlani. And there's all the talk about him returning. And of course, there's been articles since about how we need someone in like him because you need the respect. You need someone to be able to make that phone call and say, we want an apology for this. And one did come. We kind of did get an admission of error, and it makes you wonder if he had a little hand in that or not.
And it's interesting because we're only in week 3, and each game has had some controversial decision. Every single game. We've had a goal annulled in the first 2. We had 3 in the first 2 games, and then in the multiple penalty shouts in this one. So it's interesting how, yet again, we are the protagonist in the media here, for better or worse,
And again, the result covers over a lot, right? So people aren't as angry because ultimately we got the 3 points. But I think that it's most important that we shout about it in these moments, as if to say, look, it didn't impact the result in the end. We got the win, but it was despite the refereeing and not because of it, and that's the way that it always seems to be. So,
and it's something that we kind of poke fun at after the game. We did it this week was, we spend the whole 90 minutes of the game screaming, cursing out the team, hating each other. Everything's shit. Everything's awful. And then full time comes, we got the 3 points, and it's like, this is a good season. We could win it all.
Played quite well there.
These rose tinted glasses are what sweeps the refereeing errors under the rug. And, I'm not saying we can't then be in a good mood after a win. We absolutely should. But like you said, these are the moments we need to still call out the bullshit and say, hey, yeah, we won, but we could have won 4-0 if the referee did their job. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean? Like, it should be, everything needs to be done correctly. And I know that's never going to be the case, that you have 100% perfect calls and everything's smooth, but you should strive for as close to perfection as possible when your job is to be the arbiter of the game and determine what's right and wrong. You need to be doing the best job possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well said. Anyway, we did win, and that same with the refereeing decisions as with the performance. I think in that the result conditions what lens you put on the performance, and I think people afterwards sort of, because we'd won, like, all right, we saw some positives there. On another day that probably ends 3 or 4-0 if we take those chances and blah blah blah. Yeah, I know what you mean, and that's kind of how I was as well. But I never overreacted at any point during that game. I thought there was just something there which made it feel like a mature performance, It never felt like we were out of control. We gave Bologna very little. And yeah, people might say it's peak Allegri ball and stuff like that. But I think it's important that we build a platform with results first, and then hopefully the style of play and the cohesiveness and everything like that can follow suit, because what you don't want is for there to be pressure in the table from like round 5, because then it becomes a problem and then the performances really start getting scrutinized. Man of the match,
Modric.
I mean, you go Modric and I'll go Rabiot. I mean, the answer is Modric, match winner and maestro. Love him. But I'll go Rabiot just as a special shout for what, as we spoke about, was a quite impressive debut. Flop of the match, even though I've sort of not defended him, but I agree with the defense from Allegri and Modric and sort of trying to keep his head up and everything. But yeah, you missed those chances. It has to be Santi, right?
Yeah, it has to be Santi. There's a case to be made for Mike because this is like his 3rd injury by just standing there. But yeah, it's Santiago. You can't miss those chances.
Just really, really odd communication as well that's come out afterwards, in that Maignan left the stadium with crutches. So we're all thinking, well, that's a grade 3. We're looking at a couple of months out for him there. And then the club say he's undergone a scan along with Pavlovic on Monday morning and has no muscle injury at all. Yeah. I don't understand how that's possible. But now the rumor is that he's going to miss a couple of games anyway. So, like, what is it?
Yeah,
it's going to turn into another Leao. I swear,
exactly.
It'll be another 4-week thing. But we'll be without him for a bit. So it'll be Terracciano and possibly Torriani in the cup maybe next week, just to keep him fresh. But don't feel too bad with Terracciano stepping up. Leads us actually nicely into Udinese away from home. Do you know why this is a tough game? Because they're above us in the table.
No,
which is wild. Yeah, they're 4th.
They're not top. They're 4th.
Yes, they are.
Wow, They sure are, because they didn't lose to Cremonese.
And they won away at Pisa in the last round, and they won away at Inter in round 2.
Yeah,
so
that's an easy match.
They're
on
half
team.
Yeah, they're on 7. They're on Inter, are they? Yeah, they're
they are.
Oh, great to see. Fiorentina down in 16th, relegation battle awaits for them. Lazio bottom half. Yeah, early season table always does look a bit wild, but Cremonese and Udinese being 3rd and 4th is certainly something. But yeah, I suppose we've got a chance to jump above them. That's the way to look at it. They've started well, though. Their summer business is kind of interesting, really, because it wouldn't necessarily suggest, to me anyway, that they strengthened. They lost Jacobiol to Leeds for 18 million. Samardzic went permanently to Atalanta for 14.8. Nuyan Perez went to Porto for 13 million. They lost Florian Thauvin to Lens, who'd actually been good for Udinese, for 6 mil. Lorenzo Luca, of course, goes to Napoli alone with an option. And Martin Payero left, and they signed Arthur Atta, Lennon Miller, Adam Buxa, Luka Kiermgard, Saba Goglikidze, who I actually quite like, Jakub Piotrowski, Zaniolo on a loan, which is kind of a mad one. Yeah. But yeah, it's a lot of, barring Zaniolo, it's names that we don't recognise. And that has kind of been the Udinese way. And do you know what? Fair play to them. They've been in Serie A for a long time now. They're on a good run of staying in the top flight. So clearly something is working for them. But yeah, again, it's another summer where it's like, I can't see them getting stronger. And yet they've started pretty well. You worried about this one?
It's definitely an interesting game. I mean, I think everyone expected them to just not be good because they typically aren't. And then they lost Luka, which was their main striker, obviously. But in their 3 games, they've used 3 different strike partnerships. So you really don't know who they're going to use. I would imagine the ones are going to be Bravo and David, because those are
Keenan Davis,
those are the 2 that have played 2 matches, and they seem to be doing well. So it could be a case of hard to break down because you don't know them. You don't know what to expect. Depends on how we prepare for it. I think ultimately we'll be fine. I think we're just a better team with better players. But yeah, it's definitely unique. Going away against Udinese is never a simple task, especially for us. So There could be some difficulties here, but ultimately I think we get the job done and we break into the top 4.
I'd like to think that that's the case. I think we should be, obviously, Maignan and maybe probably Pavlovic are going to be out, so that adds to the list of injuries. But at least in the forward department, we should be a little bit better. Pulisic should be at 100%, and Kunku should probably be able to start now if he has a good week of work and that kind of thing. So that will help. It will feel a little bit more secure there. We know the midfield has that abundance of options now, so we're not like in bad shape going into this game. And I think the way that we've been defending as well, it gives a lot of confidence that we can go there and make things very difficult for them when other teams haven't this season. Yeah, I watched them away against Inter at San Siro when they came from behind and they came from behind and won, didn't they? And I thought that they were really, really impressive in that game. They were organised, but I think the thing that's a bit different under Runjaic, the manager, who was at Legia Warsaw before, is that they actually seem to be offering quite a bit going forward as well, with that front two. So we'll have to watch out. I mean, this in my head now, I've got obviously conditioned based on what happened in 2023-24, with this being a shit place to go because some of their fans are racist scumbags and we've had to walk off the field here before. But it does feel like we're always made to scrap hard for points. I remember Romagnoli's last minute winner. I remember Ibrahimovic with the late equaliser during lockdown. That comeback in that racist incident game with Luka Jovic and Okafor scoring in added time to complete a pretty dramatic comeback. So last season we won 4-0, so it kind of books the trend in that sense, and I'd absolutely take that again this season. On Saturday night it is, isn't it? But yeah, I think that I'm just thinking with the team, there probably will be a tweak back to playing with 2 up front. That would be my gut feeling. And I think Di Vinta is going to come in for Pavlovic, presuming he can't play, and Pietro Terracciano for Maignan. So there's 2 forced changes at the back there, which it's not brilliant for continuity, but it's not a huge drop-off like it might have been in previous years. Salamakers and Estupiñán are nailed on. Modric is nailed on. Rabiot probably is too. So then it's a case of, okay, if you're moving Loftus-Cheek to play with, let's say, Pulisic Jimenez up front, or it might be Pulisic Nkunku, then are you putting Loftus-Cheek in for Fofana and dropping Fofana full stop, or are you having Loftus-Cheek as an impact sub kind of thing? Or are you starting Richie?
Well, that's what I would do, which means it won't happen. But I would do Modric, Richie, Rabiot. That's what I think is, our best available partnership right now in the midfield. I would prefer Jashari, but we obviously know he's out for a hot minute here, so not even counting him. And then I would probably, for this game, I think he's going to start Santiago and Pulisic, just knowing that they do have really good chemistry together. But also, if Nkunku only has 30 to 45 minutes in his legs, I just know coaches don't tend to use those in the beginning. They tend to wait for the fresh legs at the end if that's all they get out of it, which some people agree with, some people disagree. I'm neither here nor there, but I think we see him as a late sub, and I think we see Loftus-Cheek as a late sub. And I would start Ricci just to have a bit more of that safety in the midfield, because we'll have the 2 true strikers up top, as opposed to Loftus-Cheek up there. So I think in a weird way, you want less offensive midfielders. You want to be more stable. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement. I mean, we've said sort of since the first competitive game of the season that we think it's strange Richie had such an impressive pre-season and had such an obvious role in the team, and has now been kind of reduced to an impact player off the bench. But I thought there was something interesting in the Bologna game, which is that he came on and played that number 8 role. And that shows that maybe he is willing to try him there. And I think that could be important moving forward, because if Modric has got the keys in his pocket for that register role, and that's going to be it. Then of course Richie can back up in that particular spot when Modric needs a rest. But how do you get him minutes otherwise? Because Modric is going to want to play full 90s because he can. So where does Richie get these minutes to help him develop? Well, if he starts playing him as a box-to-box player, it's not where we see him naturally. But then he had that moment when he comes in off the left side and he hits the post with that rocket of a shot from like 20 yards out against Bologna. if that goes in, what a moment, first of all. But shows that there is that element of his game as well. So I don't know. I think there is a situation where you can have those three, that being Richie, Rabiot, and Modric, coexist from minute one. And then, you have Loftus-Cheek and I guess Fofana for now as impact subs off the bench. Probably be more LLC, wouldn't it? But I think we are going to go 2 up front and match them formation-wise. Feels like Udinese have played a 3-5-2 for 20 years. And it hasn't changed under Runjaic, who I quite like as a coach, I'm not going to lie. But Umar Saleh is the rock at the back. He was linked with a move in the summer and didn't get one ultimately. Thomas Christensen, he's been okay as well. Zamora and Ehizubue are the ones to watch, I think, the wing backs. They've caused us problems before, but also if we sometimes get sucked into traps where we maybe commit too many men forward, talked about Estupinian and Salamak as being the spare man on both sides, then they're looking at winning the ball back and springing through those two. They're very quick, very powerful, very athletic. Atta in midfield scored in the last game. He looks like quite an interesting profile. And then Keenan Davis up front. It'll either be with might be with Vacuum Bayo, or I don't know who did you say started up front in the last game?
I think it was. I already forgot.
Of course he scored. Ika Bravo, he was the match winner. So it's probably going to be him. They'll stick with those two up front. I noticed Kamara played at left wing back.
Oh, Davis and Bravo did play up front last game.
Yeah,
okay,
right.
I'm sorry. So then just two different lineups because they played together in the first game, I think.
All right, so I'm just looking here at the injury list. Sandy Lovric, who I guess would normally start in midfield, is currently out with a calf problem. Vacuum Bayo picked up a thigh problem. And Okoye cannot play because he's serving a gambling ban. So there's that. And I just wondered why they dropped Zamora out of the team. Zamura out of the team at left wing back, but he came off the bench. Gogli Kidze, who they signed in the summer, who I really like, can't even start for them. And Zaniolo came on with 30 minutes to go, but you've got to imagine that's more of a fitness thing. So it might be Zaniolo in there at some point. I don't know about this one. I don't know. I'm not confident enough to say that we definitely win it. I think what you are, aren't you? You're saying we'll do it. I'm
going to say we'll do it. I'm not 100% confident. If we drop points in any way, I wouldn't be crazy shocked depending on how it happens. I will yell, don't get me wrong, but I think we should be looking to win this. I think the only games that we should say are games where we might drop points are against the big three at this point. Napoli, Inter, Juventus, right? I'm excluding us in that because we can't play ourselves. But the big three possible.
We tried last season.
Yeah, we sure beat ourselves a few times, actually.
I'm going to go 1-1. I'm going to be conservative and say that this is going to be actually a pretty scrappy game. And I think we're going to struggle to create. My guess is we go behind in the first half and we get a point from it. But I hope to be wrong, and I hope it's another 4-0 like last season, because that felt like getting a big demon off our back, hammering them, because they've made it so hard for us over the years. So many late goals needed, so many smash and grab wins at San Siro for them, that to go and hammer them felt like quite a big moment.
It won't be a 4-0. I can tell you that. No. So throw that one out the window. But look, I think there's still a good chance we keep a clean sheet. Early August, during one of the preseason games, Bider and Martino were arguing on Twitter about how awful our team is. And I just
no way.
In with,
they don't normally argue.
Yeah. I know. Very calm people. But I just replied and I said, we're conceding equal to or less than 35 goals this season. And so far, we are on track to do just that. So that's, well, I should take that back. We're on track to concede 38, but we're getting near close to it, and one more clean sheet, and then I win. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep a clean sheet. Nkunku, he is going to score.
I hope so. I wanted to read out a quote that Allegri said after the game, actually, because it's on the theme of defence. He said, "If we want to finish in the top four, we need to concede a certain number of goals. He goes on to say, even when Bologna had control, we didn't let them have anything and we stayed organised. We're growing. It was important to win. We shouldn't get too excited, blah, blah, blah. But I just thought that sentence was pretty striking. If we want to finish in the top four, we need to concede a certain number of goals. So I think they've got a target in mind already, and it might be 38, it might be 35, as you said. It might even be 30. It might be like, we are going to make sure we concede less than 1 goal per game in average, and the rest on average, and the rest will take care of itself because we've got enough. We've got enough solutions in the final third and in the midfield, surely, to make sure that if we concede 0 most weeks, we are going to win most weeks.
Yeah. I mean, how many bonus podcasts have we done about defense winning championships? Like, it's true. And if there's anyone who's going to tell you that at face value and mean it, it's the guy that won 6 consecutive Scudetti by having the best defense.
So. Mad Max. Yeah, I'm loving it because I campaigned for it. I was like, we need to get someone in who makes us solid first and foremost, and now it's happening. Watch us go and concede 3 against Udinese now. But no, on a serious note, I am seeing genuine improvements. Like, Bologna is still, they've scored 1 goal in their first 3 games, so maybe it was the right time to play them. But like, I still see danger in their team, and we gave them very little. And anyway, we'll do a couple of questions and then we'll wrap it up if you got time. You got time for a couple?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Darren Torres, with the prospect of potential new owners, what do you realistically hope they can do to raise Milan as a sporting institution? Alternatively, you're Milan's new owner, and what do you do? I think I'll loan first and foremost because I can't do it.
I sell to Saudi. Look, if new owners are the Yankees, or the Yankee family, it's not good, man. The problem is the Yankees you could compare to a Manchester United in the sense that they are the biggest brand in their sport. And when you are the biggest brand and you're owned by someone who, wants money, the results don't matter because you don't have to win to keep selling hats. A Yankee hat, Jay-Z had the famous line, I made a Yankee hat more famous than a Yankee can. That's because the Yankee hat by itself is more iconic than the sports franchise. People buy Yankee hats just because they want a Yankee hat. And what does that do? It gives money to the Yankees. So, and they just make so much money. And I'm not going to pretend like I watch baseball. I don't know how they've done over the last few years, but I'm pretty sure it's been bad. That's not who I want to win or to buy us there.
Yeah. So one thing I will say is that I think the big difference would be, perhaps not in title because it's Yankees global enterprises. So like they would take over through a vehicle if this did happen. And we've had denials and all this kind of thing, but let's just run with the idea for a bit. So they would take us over, but it is ultimately a family that would be running us, not a fund. So it's almost kind of like going back to the Berlusconi days of you've got a guy at the head of it here and he's kind of doing it for the love of sport. That's what they're doing with the Yankees anyway. The Steinbrenner family have built dynasties and things like that with the Yankees. They are the most successful baseball team by a mile, the 28 times, I think. So it's like, it's unparalleled dominance really in most other sports as well. But they haven't won it since 2008, 2009 by my recollection. Now, they're competitive every single year. And they rarely don't make the playoffs. But the problem is they haven't got over the line. And for that market and for that club and for that level of scrutiny, it's unacceptable. They're perennially the highest spenders in the sport. And there is no salary cap in baseball, so they're allowed to spend to their heart's content. But everything, they've had, I think Brian Cashman was previous GM and they took a bit too long to fire him really because he wouldn't make that courageous move. They've gone through quite a lot of managers. Joe Girardi was there. I think now they've got Boone, or they might have even sacked him. So it's like the pressure there to win is so much that it doesn't necessarily breed stability. And they've still thrown a lot of money at it, still made quite big changes. And they've not yet got over the line. They got to the World Series last year and they got beat 4-1 by the Dodgers. Yeah, so like they went.
The other thing to consider is European football is not a money making endeavor.
No,
Redbird has made it one, but are we happy? Probably not.
They get actually used. That's like
a good.
I was going to say that the profit thing that you mentioned is actually being used as a stick to beat them with. and say, what good is that when we're so bad on the field? You know,
Exactly.
so that shit won't wash, especially with another American ownership. Again, that's not me aiming to be xenophobic in any way of American ownerships. It's just that they have a certain modus operandi.
The mentality is different, especially in sports. Sports are such a huge money-making vehicle in America that when you take it to a continent that it doesn't make money, it's quite literally about passion and results. They fail. They don't do a good job. And they're popping up more and they're having success here and there, but ultimately it's not going to happen in Italy. The Steinbrenner family, and I just looked up one of them, Hal or Hank or whatever his name is. I don't know. He's the co-chair. His net worth is only $1.5 billion. I say only, but that's because that in today's age is not enough money to fund a successful European football club. Now, though, if it's the whole family, obviously the net worth is significantly higher, but how much are they all willing to put in of their own personal money when they're used to just making money hand over fist for, they could spend, like you said, a shit ton of money on the Yankees, make it back, and nothing really comes out of their personal. But in the world of European football, it's not like that. And I don't think that they're probably looking at what Jerry's done, and he's saying, look, guys, you can make money doing this. It's all good. Why does he want out then if he's making money? So
so I think obviously Steinbrenner family will have their own personal worth. Yankees Global Enterprises, who it would be, I think, taking us over because they already own 10% of the vehicle that owns Milan, so they are 10% investors in Milan. So in theory, it wouldn't be too difficult to convert that into a bigger share. Perhaps they pay off the vendor loan, and that's the way that they do it. But they're worth, I think, just short of $8 billion they could, in theory, afford it, especially paying off the vendor loan, which would be about 700 mil. Of course, they've got to have the capital then to keep running the club and things like that. But it's not beyond the realms of possibility, especially when you look at Redbird. They're not huge either. But it's like everything that you said is correct. It just doesn't feel like a good fit to me. Their expertise is baseball. And they are lucky enough to own the biggest and historically best franchise. And you can't win anything anymore. So what makes you think that they'll do? Because there's a lot of parallels between us and the Yankees. We're only good in the mid-2000s last and properly good. And what makes you think that they're going to come into this new realm that they know very little about and be successful? There's no guarantees to even throw money at it. I don't know, man.
Unless it's literally just Yankees up their ownership to 60% to pay off that vendor loan, like you said, and then that is then again flipped and sold to someone who wants to be the real owner, which is another nightmare, but nowhere near out of the realm of possibility, knowing how businesses flip here in the States. So it's a possibility. I mean, we already thought Redbird came in as a cover for Elliott to get out of some debt, and then they're going to keep moving debt, switching hands, and I don't know whatever happens. It's not fun. It's not a positive way to end the podcast after we just talked about a big win. So do we have a fun question to do?
Yes, we do. Yeah, and I'll just mention really, really quickly as well. So much revolves around the stadium. I think the one thing you can say about the Yankees mob is that they have managed to build a brand new stadium in New York. That must be very, very difficult to do, but they did it, and they've got a state-of-the-art home. They've kind of got experience on that front, and we know the stadium is important in the timeline of events of when we're sold because it instantly increases the valuation of the club towards $2 billion. Probably makes us more investable, certainly more sellable. So that is something to keep in mind. And the news did come today that the council and the clubs have fully agreed the package deal for the sale of San Siro and the surrounding areas. So that is positive, but it's got to be voted through.
27 UCL final. So
yeah, and they're saying they cannot afford to lose the 2032 European Championship, the Euros games. So the Salah came out and said, the Mayor Salah came out and said, 2031 the stadium has to be built by, otherwise what's the point kind of thing. So now that sale thing's going to go to a vote in the council by the end of the month. We'll have to know. We'll know. And then
it's crazy that he of all people is like, it has to be done by 2031. We've been trying since 2015. But he's the one who's been saying no. Like, what do you mean now we have a deadline, you piece of shit? Sorry.
Yeah, I know. Okay, Oh Hi Mats asks, outside of Milan, which team winning the Scudetto would you be able to live with the most among the three below? Juventus, Napoli, Inter.
Oh, it's Napoli. Because look, if they start a dynasty, it's not a surprise because it's under Conte. Everyone knows he's going to win titles. And also, if they win 10 more in a row, they still have 5 less than us. Like, it's not it's like how all Prem fans are just kind of indifferent to City winning for a while.
Yeah,
now they're annoyed by it,
that.
but it's like whatever.
Oh, let them have that. Yeah. I would say it's the Roman clubs and then probably Napoli. And then Juve and Inter are on a par almost for me. I think obviously Inter's last one stung because they're on 20.
One at home.
Officially
in
19.
The derby.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the answer. Final one that literally just came in. I quite like this one. History teacher Steve. Anyone follow a second Italian team, maybe in the lower leagues? He follows Avellino because his grandfather was born there. You've got a bit of Italian heritage, don't you? So have you ever looked up the team nearest there?
It's a city that begins with the letter A and it's outside Verona, but I don't remember the name of the city, and I don't know if they have a team. I think it would be Verona as the team, but I'm not supporting Hellas or Chievo. That's not happening.
Chievo have gone, haven't they? I think Chievo went bust. Good. Yeah, I kind of liked Chievo, to be honest. I've always disliked. Might it be there? Azigdano?
Sure, maybe. I genuinely don't know. I would have to ask. I've asked so many times that now if I ask again, I feel annoying.
Learn your history. I always had a bit of a soft spot for Sampdoria. I don't know why. I just really liked the kits and stuff. But when they're in the same league, obviously it made it a bit more difficult to support. But I guess Brescia as well, because there's a long history link between Milan fans and Brescia fans. They've also gone bust now as well, but sort of early memories of watching Milan. I used to love when we played away against Siena, because it's like that really like weird, not mountainous, but a really hilly place, and the stadium was just plonked on the side of a hill, and it's like surrounded by churchyards and stuff like that, and it's all like temporary stands, or at least it was. I don't know if that stadium's still there. I used to look forward to those games because it's like, wow, we are playing at some 4th tier stadium here.
Nothing to do with like the actual team itself or even following it, but I always like the Catania logo just because an elephant makes very little sense. The history behind it's neat. I don't remember something. Is it Persian invasion?
It's Carthaginians, I think, isn't it? Yeah, it came over and there you go. Wrap it up there. We are back later this week with another bonus podcast episode. And we're back early next week with a review of the Udinese game. And we got a couple of previews to do, one being the Lecce Cup game. And of course, the big one against Napoli. Conte v Allegri is back. So we've got that to look forward to. But in the meantime, I've been your host, Ollie Fisher. Find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher. AJ, cheers for joining.
Yep. See you guys on Friday for the bonus.
Friday indeed. Have a good week, everyone.